Mousetrap posted the official track list for Here's the Drop. How much does Spotify pay per play of one track? It's pretty much gone. The algorithm has just spat it out the system. It's no longer relevant. Done. Hey guys, welcome to the Kane audio vlog. It's Friday, it's time for another Ask Me Anything. Usual rules apply, comment anything you want below this video and I'll get back to you in next week's video. Before I go and look at last week's video, is there anything I want to talk about in house admin? There definitely is. Starting with Mousetrap. So some of you will have seen that yesterday in real time. Mousetrap posted the official track list for Here's the Drop, which is the remix version of deadmau5's Where's the Drop album. And my name is on there. So I'm really proud to be a part of this album. It's a really good album. So it's literally Where's the Drop, the orchestral album, each track given a remix by one of the Mousetrap artists. I got given the impossible task of track 14, Caritas, and I think the BPM was something like 40 BPM, if I remember rightly, originally. And the key was, I can't remember, I had to change the key, I had to change a bunch of parts of it, and I had to create a track that fit around this 40 BPM thing and wanted to create like a 124 BPM dance track around it. So hopefully I've done it justice. I'm intrigued. I want to say I'm excited for you guys to hear it, but I think I'm more intrigued to see what the reactions are. I think I've done all right. I think. But it was kind of a nightmare to make and to mix. And as you can all imagine, when you're asked to do a remix for someone as big as deadmau5, you want it to be special. And so I think you second guess yourself a lot and stuff like that. But anyway, so that's been announced. It's out in a few weeks' time. Obviously, I will link. There is already a link to pre-save it. I'll drop that below this video on Spotify and Apple Music. What else have I written down here? I've also been asked by Mousetrap to put together a mix, a very, very special mix, which they want to be exclusive for their Mixcloud subscribers. If you remember last week, I went, what the hell's that about? With Mixcloud. Was it last week, the week before? Whatever. Recently, I wondered what the hell all that was about. So that's what that's about. So Mixcloud, I guess, is doing a subscription service, and that means that you get sort of exclusive content and whatever. They've asked me to do a very particular mix, which would be very, very exclusive. So I'm happy to do that, but I'm currently negotiating to get my Patreon subscribers to get the same exclusive content as well, because I think that's only fair. I feel like if you're already subscribing to my Patreon account, and there's only a few of you at the moment, so it's not a big deal to them, I don't think. Watch this space, I guess. That'll probably be, I don't know, hopefully a few weeks' time. Other than that, what else have I been doing? I've been doing a fair few TV bits and pieces. Still got deadlines looming for that, so there's not much I can talk about on that front. Other than that, I've just been doing geeky gear side of getting ready for Amsterdam in a few weeks to do the podcast. So I've got USB-C CF card readers and stuff so that I can plug in my camera CF cards and SD cards into my phone to be able to upload them to Dropbox. And I've been sort of trying to work out how's best to back up stuff without taking a laptop, because I'm very restricted in terms of how much weight I'm allowed on the flight. I think it's like 23 kilos, and obviously I've got cameras and lights and microphones and all sorts, so there we go. That has been my week. I hope you have had a more interesting week. Yeah, so let's get on with the show. There's not many this week, so I think this is going to be a pretty short video, to be honest. Reality on X Production. I saw Kane written on Mousetrap's Here's the Drop IG post. What song you remixed/remade? Oh, well, I've just told you, so there we go. Caritas track 14 on the album. As far as I'm aware, they've kept the track listing of the album to be exactly like Where's the Drop. Is it Marin or Marine or Marin? Rados. Hi Dom, it's been a while. It's me, Deadmau5 Singer. So the unpronounceables, aka the Mexican Deadmau5. I just changed my name into something more normal. My real name, lol. And I know it's kind of hard to pronounce. So yeah, there we go. I've just started with questioning how do you pronounce your first name. It depends on what country you're from, I guess. Great video as always. Sorry for not being active in the past 1 to 3 months. I was just taking some time working since I got a summer job, and I'm excited to say that my new PC is arriving next week. It's fantastic, and yet plastic. High five. Well, congrats on the summer job, and hopefully, because if I remember rightly, you were at university, so hopefully that all went well, and hopefully you got your exam results, I think, and hopefully they were all good. St. Nicholas, hi Dom, could you tell me or someone following, how much does Spotify pay per play of one track? Is it 0.00001 pence per play? I'm curious. So I think people talk about, I think there's 3 noughts after the decimal place, 0.0001 pence per play, I think. But I think it might actually be 0.000 pounds per play, in which case that's very different. I can't remember the per play, and the reason that I can't remember is actually kind of important to the answer. The pence per play is different in each statement. To my understanding, the way it works is they accumulate the ad revenue money in a pot and then gather the numbers of plays per everybody on Spotify, and they'll gather the total number of plays and then divide that big pot of money by the total number of plays, and then each artist gets paid whatever pence per play that works out to be. So to my understanding, it's slightly different every statement, and that depends on how many people are listening, how many plays you get, and what the ad revenue was for that period. There's probably other factors in there as well, but these 0.00 loads of noughts, they're not far off. Basically, they're pretty much rule of thumb. Now, interestingly, one thing I will say on that though is that sounds bad, but I can tell you right now, I have earned more money in the last 2 years from Spotify than I have in the last 10 years of Beatport, Tracksource, Track It Down, all the big online stores. I've probably had more in royalties in the last 12 months from Spotify than I have in the last 12 years on all of the other online stores added together, and iTunes, everything, you name it. So while everybody slags off Spotify for saying, oh, it's only 0.000 whatever, actually when you're getting potentially millions of plays, then that becomes real money. So it's not, I don't think it's as bad as it sounds. To my understanding, you're looking at about 4,000, was it dollars or pounds? It was about 4,000, I'll say dollars just to be safe, about $4,000 per 1 million plays. And again, that sounds like not very much, because of course getting 1 million plays is a huge deal. But with the Spotify editorial playlists, and this is where it gets slightly more complicated, Spotify do their own editorial playlists. Anyone who's on Spotify will know, and anyone who is watching this and on Spotify, please look up my tonal display playlist. And this is the reason why it's important that I have as many followers as possible on this playlist. The editorial playlists, the ones curated by Spotify themselves, have millions of followers, which means that if you get one of your tracks put on those playlists, you're potentially getting millions of plays. Some of them have tens of millions of followers and potentially, 100 million plays. So, then it's serious money. That's, buying a new house money. So the potential there is huge. Whereas if you look at the business models of more like iTunes, forget Apple Music, but just iTunes itself, the store, or Beatport or TrackSource, or all of those, purchase and download type shops. Let's say Beatport, for argument's sake, let's say Beatport, you could get a number one on Beatport, which I've had in the past, but a long, long time ago. I've had number ones on Beatport, and they make good money. They make, I think back then it was a couple of grand in the first week, and then it kind of just frizzled out. And then it's gone. It's gone forever. And once you've made that initial money, then, it's an old release. It gets chucked to the back of the store. Anybody who's watching this, and I'm pretty sure most of you watching this will use Beatport at some point or another, you can see everything's in date order. You're only getting the newest stuff on the front page. If you want to find a release from 8 years ago without knowing the name of that release, that's not going to happen, unless you've got years to sit down and trawl through every single release. So there's no way of discovering new things really, other than brand new things by going to the charts or DJ's featured charts or something like that. And again, the DJ's featured charts in Beatport, they're really not anything more than some hyper inflated promo tool for whatever their new release is. And I'll hold my hands up to that. If you look at my charts that I've submitted to Beatport, the only charts I've ever submitted to Beatport have been for political reasons, because I've got a new release out that week or something, and it's just a little bit more exposure. It's just bullshit. Whereas with a playlist on Spotify, if you follow my tonal display playlist on Spotify, and please do so, you'll notice there are tracks on there that are maybe 10 years old, because they're still great tracks and they still belong on that playlist. And then in 2 weeks' time, it might be something different. So Spotify has a lot more scope for having a longer life for music. And I think this is just so important in this day and age, in this industry, to be able to have art that can live a longer life than 1 or 2 weeks is huge. Because it doesn't matter whether we're talking about Facebook posts, Instagram posts, tweets, whatever social media stuff there is out there, every single one of them lasts, a couple of hours? If I post something on Facebook, I mean, Christ, looking at Facebook is a great example. If I post say I have a new release or a piece of, hey, maybe I have a free download. I'm going to give everybody a free track and I'll post it on Facebook on my fan page, of which there's 14,000 people following that page. I guarantee you, if I gave out a free download, just direct link to an MP3, it would get 30 downloads, 50 maybe, and then and the reason for that is because Facebook algorithms just don't allow you to push to your own fans, which is ridiculous. And then 2, 3, 4 hours later, it's pretty much gone. The algorithm has just spat it out the system. It's no longer relevant. Done. So when it comes to promoting music, you've got such a tight window. It's hard to explain just how important someone like Spotify is. And I think the points I'm talking about here, I know you're only talking about pence per play, and I've gone off on a rant again. But I feel like all of this is really important to get across, because this is where our industry needs to go. To me, this is the future of our industry, the streaming side of stuff. The Netflixes and the Spotifys are the future of the industry, because individual downloads are going to become a thing of the past, especially when it comes to like movies and stuff like that. Downloading a movie is going to be ridiculous, especially once we get into 8K quality and stuff like that. You're going to need an entire hard drive just for one film. But anyway, the Spotify the streaming model with playlists and curated playlists and public playlists. So not only can Spotify make their own playlists, which are the editorial ones, I can make a playlist and I can make it public or private or collaborative or whatever. And I think that's a really forward thinking element to Spotify that no one else seems to do, namely Apple Music. And this is why I left Apple Music out of all of this, because yes, it's a streaming service, but the browsability of music on Apple Music I found to just be non-existent. There was a period when it first launched where it was suggesting curated playlists, and they were great playlists, don't get me wrong. The Apple staff did a great job of curating those playlists, but outside of the Apple ones, there wasn't a playlist that I could get my hands onto, and I couldn't make my own playlist and share it publicly, much like the tonal display. And in fact, a couple of people have asked, can you make this playlist available on Apple Music as well? And the answer is no. I even contacted Apple saying, look, this is the playlist I have. I'd like to mirror it on Apple Music and share it with my fans. And they've basically said, you can't do that. It's not something you can do. Not without specific versions of something and whatever. It just wasn't going to happen, basically. So there we go. So when it comes to pence per play on Spotify, trying to drag it back to your question, it is really low numbers, and it should be more. Don't get me wrong. As much as I'm singing the praise of Spotify, I do think the pence per play should be more. And I also am aware that there is some how do I phrase it without getting sued? There's some elements to their business model that I disagree with. So, for example, and again, I could be wrong here, but to my understanding, allegedly, I'll say that for legal reasons, the subscriber money, not the ad revenue. So they've got two forms of income. There's ad revenue, which is for the ads on the free accounts, or the subscriber revenue from the people who subscribe monthly to get rid of the ads. I think how it was, or to my understanding, it was that the subscriber money would go to them as profit, whereas ad revenue would go to the artists. And it turned out at one point the ad revenue was far, far lower than the subscriber revenue, and there was a huge imbalance in there. And also, as much as I understand the reasons, Spotify had to try and persuade the major record labels to come on board at the very beginning, and I know how difficult that would have been for them to convince major record labels to allow people to stream their material, because of the archaic nature of major record labels. That would have been a huge leap. Off the back of that, to my understanding, Spotify offered them shares in not only Spotify but of the profits of subscriber revenue, which means that the major labels get a huge pot of money that they probably don't need to share with their artists, and I'd be surprised if they do share it with any of their artists. So I kind of feel like there is reason for these big artists. I think it was Taylor Swift said she wouldn't put stuff on Spotify or something, or one of those sorts of people. So I kind of get that their point of view, because from their perspective, they're signed to a major. The major are getting huge sums of money, and none of that is going to the artists. I get that, and if that's the case, then that would be wrong morally. But from a small artist's point of view, and for you guys out there, I think Spotify, or at least not the business model, but the streaming model that they have, the system and the user interface, and the fact that I can find an artist or a track or whatever that I like on Spotify, and it will go, artists like this or whatever. When I'm putting together a playlist, at the very bottom there'll be 10 more tracks that it recommends that you might want to add to this playlist, and sometimes it absolutely nails that. So it allows me to go, wow, this artist, I've not heard of this artist, and actually a lot of the tracks and artists that I've got on the Tonal Display playlist have come through recommendations to Spotify and whatever. So it's from me knowing one artist and maybe another artist, and then Spotify recommending someone in between. That makes it huge. So that means that having your tracks playlisted it is much more realistic, regardless of the age of your track, because like I say, with the online download shops, your track has a shelf life of a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 at a push, whereas on a streaming service your track has an infinite shelf life. It could be brought back into a playlist in 10 years time. And in fact, on a final note, and I am going to finish this rant, on a final note of Spotify money, I do have a couple of friends, one of which is in a band of singer-songwriter indie kind of pop, but not chart pop. Just good music, basically, indie rock pop stuff. They're not famous, they're not signed to any big labels, they're not using any promo companies, they're not doing anything out of the ordinary. They're just writing good music and they're releasing it on Spotify, and they've been playlisted in some really big editorial playlists by Spotify, just I guess just selected because it was good music, whatever. But they certainly they don't know who chose it. There's no backhanders going on. And a few of their tracks, I think one of them had like 27 million plays or something. Now that transpired to be, I remember speaking to them, almost £100,000 in cold hard cash in their bank account from that one song. So, and they've had a few that have hit not quite that high, but not far off. So there is real money available in these things, and I think that's the future of streaming. And there we go. That's the end of my rant on that. So thanks for asking, St. Nicholas. Zombo, how did you go about buying the Moog? Purely because you liked, or did someone recommend it? Love the videos, Dom. Have a great weekend. Plastic. High five. Nice to know that you like Joe Rogan as well. Can't get enough of his elk hunting stories. Yeah, I am a fan of Joe Rogan's podcast, and I'm a huge fan of UFC, so I've known of Joe Rogan since forever. I will also stipulate that I never used to like him because he was always into conspiracy theories and he appeared to be really right-wing, very, I don't know, just not my kind of person. And I absolutely love UFC. I love mixed martial arts, and I'm a huge jiu-jitsu fan. So Joe Rogan is obviously the commentator of UFC, and that's all great. And I remember watching a little bit of one of his stand-ups years and years and years ago. So I've been watching UFC since the mid-90s, late 90s. So I remember watching one of his stand-ups, and about 10 minutes in, I was like, oh, this guy's just not my thing. He's a right-wing conspiracy theorist nut job. I don't want him to put me off UFC. So I stopped watching it, and I never watched anything he did ever since, until a few years ago. I just happened to, and I knew his podcast was supposed to be amazing, and I kept wanting to watch it, but he kept getting in right-wing bigots like Ben Shapiro and weird conspiracy nut jobs and Alex Jones, people like that, and I can't tolerate people like that. Just such a closed-mindedness, and I know it sounds like it's me being closed-minded because I won't give them an opportunity to speak, but I don't think we should tolerate intolerance, and we should have an intolerance of intolerance, which is a real thing, and that's that. Anyway, so I avoid it, and then I happened to see a couple of years ago, I think he had Neil deGrasse Tyson or something, and I caved, and I thought, I've got to watch this. So I did watch it, and it just so happened that in whatever episode, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, whoever it was that made me finally cave, he happened to then explain that he used to be into conspiracy theories, and that he filmed some series for Netflix or something, and wanted to sort of test all these conspiracy theories, and he found out that actually 99% of them were bullshit, and so he completely went off the conspiracy theory thing, and I guess maybe as a byproduct, or maybe he's always been left-leaning but appealed to the right wings, I don't know, but whatever, that's that. Anyway, so right, you asked the question, how did you go about buying the Moog? Actually, Moog got in touch with me for my first one, asking if I wanted to do some presets for the Stage 2 Little Fatty, which I obviously did and got a mega discount on that. And then similarly for, well, all the others actually. I had used Moogs in other people's studios, and I'd sort of dreamt of owning them myself. But at the time was not really, I mean, I was only just starting to do sound design stuff, and as much as I come from an analog old school background, I think at the time I wasn't necessarily into the whole analog thing, because I felt like I'd been there and done that and moved on. So I knew of Moog since birth. They were always a massive deal, whether you were into, techno or prog rock or whatever. So I don't think anyone ever needed to recommend them. It's just that I think I spoke to them for something. I think I was asking about the Stage 2 or something, and they ended up coming back to me saying, can you do some presets? To which I basically bit the hand off. There we go. That is that. I'm just going to quickly reset. I know we've probably not even got any other questions coming up now, but I'm just going to hit reset because the camera's going to do it itself otherwise. And I'm back. Right. Yanis Lekmelis. Hi Dom, thank you for sharing your Ibiza experience. Plastic is not good. Well, I'll give you a high five and a double high five for saying it's not good, because you're right, it's not. Zombo 4420, love the video color, please can you keep it? Oh, do you know what, just mute the thing. Is it here? Yeah, it is. Yeah, so well spotted to you. That is, I think I do a slight color grade when I drop these into DaVinci, these videos. I do a slight color grade, and I think I just play with the blacks a little bit just to bring them out a bit, just because I kind of feel like in this image you're looking at right now, there's black speaker, black absorber, black chair, black absorber, darkish screen, and more over there. Yeah, so there's lots of blacks around, so I kind of feel like when you've got black on black, you need to pull the colours out if you can. So yeah, there we go. And accidentally, I guess I didn't apply it to one of the clips. So well spotted, you. And then finally, Cake C, Plastique. High five in French. That is it, my friends. Yeah, that is it. So yeah, so it's been what, half an hour? Not too bad actually. That was always my initial sort of aim. And to prove you've made it this far into the video, I'm gonna say comment the word perfect, because that's on the thumbnail of the video saying the best guitar tone I've ever had. Okay, fair enough. I'm not a fan of guitar sounds. Right, I don't think there is anything else I need to mention this week. No, I think we're all good. So, have a good weekend, and I will see you this time next week. Cheers.